All right, so good morning. And we will start lying on the block with the block under the sacrum. Come down to the floor, having that block under your legs. And just taking a few moments, letting the weight of your body rest into the floor. Inhaling and exhaling. And as you're ready, lifting up, block under the sacrum, back of the pelvis, sliding the legs out. Big inhale up into the lower belly, exhale, melting off the block. And then as things start to get a little more settled in, let's bring those legs to parallel, hip distance apart or right together. A little more active reach through the heels. Maybe taking your hands on the block near the waist, giving a push there. Getting a little extra length, so that little bit of traction there through the spine and the hips. And if you want, you can keep the hands there on the block. We can bring them alongside like the bridge pose. And here we are cooperating with the block, being more actively and less passively engaged. Inhaling and exhaling. Keep letting that breath get a little bit longer and deeper. If it seems a little challenging to breathe, you might be putting in too much effort at this time. Still want to be able to have big, round breaths. Let's take 3 or 4 more breaths here. And bend the knees, lifting up off that block, taking it out, rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. Oh. And then we will take our block and put it between the knees, either the narrow or maybe the medium distance. So whatever distance seems to be closest to hip distance apart in your legs for you. And give that block a squeeze, feeling the feet nice and flat on the floor. We'll spread out of the toes. And then we will roll up in the bridge pose, scooping that tailbone up and rolling up, maybe interlocking the fingers underneath with a little bend in the elbows to lift a little more. And just drawing those knees and inner thighs in toward the center, squeezing the block. And see if you can get a feeling of pulling the block back towards you, like you're going to slide the block up the thighs. And then a feeling of pressing that block away toward the wall in front of you. And then finding a spot between those two actions, If one of them felt more interesting, maybe a little more of that. Or maybe neither one of those made sense for your body this morning. And just squeeze the block. Breathing 3, 2, 1. Rolling down. So sometimes an action like that that's a little bit subtle or strange, like thinking you could hold the block with the knees and pull it actually up toward you, up the thighs. Sometimes it just, you might not really feel anything. You might be kind of doing the think method. That even still happens to me some days. It's just, well, I'm just kind of thinking about that. Anyway, we're on the floor. No more thinking for a few breaths as we slide the legs out to straight, stretch the arms up overhead. And then make your way up to sitting. Sometimes I wonder if it's not our mind that's the one refusing to do some kind of subtle action or engage with it. We just don't feel like it today. Maybe the bridge pose was a challenging enough thing just to lift up this morning, and we just didn't want to add anything else into that. Anyway. Well, whatever happened with all that, now we're here, sitting in Sukhasana. Using the arms alongside, giving a lengthen up, feeling space coming between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. Whatever shifting and swinging you want to do. And finishing with that, letting the hands rest on the knees. Inhale and exhale, closing your eyes. Settling your attention back inside yourself. Feeling the breath. And feeling a little moment between each breath. Inhale and exhale. And there is a moment of pause before the next exhale begins. Sometimes it's very short. Sometimes we lengthen that pause out and rest in that stillness for a little bit longer. Just feel that moment at the end of the exhale. All quiet and peacefulness. And opening the eyes, reaching out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Breathing the arms up, shoulder blades strong on the back. Breathing them down. Let's do that twice more. And then hands on the knees, letting the upper chest lift. Let's ripple, reaching forward, contracting and rounding up and back. And doing that 3 more times. Or as always, number of your choice, moving at the speed of your choice. We're all going to eventually be changing the legs and end up in a forward bend, so you can get there sooner rather than later, or later rather than sooner, as we finish the 3 ripples. And changing across of the legs. And then let's do 3 or 4 more ripples, maybe going the other way, rounding back first. And then we will let these ripples end in the forward bend. And sometime in the next couple of breaths, pouring yourself out into the forward bend. Arriving at a place of a little bit more stillness, big round breaths into the lower back and across the sacrum. Big round breaths into the upper back, maybe even the back of the neck. Coming up, unfurling the spine vertebrae by vertebrae back up on top of the sitting bones. Inhale and exhale. Let's slide our legs straight out in front in Dandasana, flexing the feet, toes up to the ceiling. So you can just see my toes there, I think. And then lifting up from behind, coming forward any amount. You can keep pushing from behind with the hands or bring them onto the legs or maybe onto the floor. Inhale and exhale, opening the backs of the legs up along the floor. And coming up and then pulling those legs up to Baddha Konasana, feeling that action in the hip joints, maybe a little assistance at the end. Holding on to the ankles or shins, sitting up nice and tall, coming forward, pressing down and out with the arms. And coming back up and then out to Dandasana. Once again, really feeling the transition, flexing the feet, pressing through the heels. The legs rotate back into parallel. All right, forward. We're going to keep going with this. Forward. And taking 3 or 4 breaths here. And coming up, pulling the legs back into Baddha Konasana. Big lift up out of the hips and coming forward and over. And coming up. So I'm going to be the right-left mirror, and we're going to take our left leg over left ankle in the arch of the right foot in the Vajrasana position. Twisting to the right, left hand onto the right. And then turning to the center, opening up that left leg, moment in Baddha Konasana. We'll take the right leg across, twisting to the left, Vinyasa. And back to center, Baddha Konasana. Sliding the legs out to straight, turning them into Dandasana, flexing the feet. Coming forward. And coming up, Baddha Konasana, pulling those legs back, coming forward and up. And coming up, this time we'll add big arm sleepiness with our Vajrasana. So reaching up with the left arms, the left leg comes across, left hand to the right knee. And then that left arm will lift up again and open as the left leg opens. And then the right arm comes up and over and to the left knee. And then big lift up with that right arm, right leg opens up, back to Baddha Konasana. And now a little different. Let's slide those legs out to Konasana, the angle pose, the straddle. And coming forward, here too, maybe pushing with the hands from behind. Hands on the legs, hands on the floor in front, or some combination. Just the one I usually prefer, where I've got my hands on the floor and I'm sort of wedging my lower arm and elbows into the legs. Inhaling into the center, exhale, pouring out. And coming up. And then we'll bend the right leg into half dragon. One long leg, one short leg. Let's twist to the right. Inhale and exhale. And then left hand onto the left leg, still twisting and reaching out and up and over with that right arm into the side bend, the twisting side bend over the left leg, our Vriddhajanu Shirsasana. And then coming up, and let's do that wafting back and forth 3 times. So inhale and exhale, twist. And left hand, left leg, inhale and exhale, up and over. Hold the breath. And then coming up. Let's do that twice more. And twist. Up and over. And coming up. And twist. And this time we're going to stay in the side bend. Up and over. Take a breath, and here we are. And then pulling down with that right arm, turning to face your left leg. Maybe a little twisting to the left, pulling the left side of the belly and the ribs a little up and back. And coming forward over the left leg. Janu Shirsasana, no parvrida, no rotation or twist. And coming up. Let's extract our right leg. A little refresh in the center. And then we'll bend the left leg into the half dragon. All right, here we go with all of that on the left. So inhale and exhale, twisting left, holding a few breaths. Keeping those twisting actions as we reach back with our right hand onto our right leg and reaching out with the left, reaching up and over into the twisting side bend, Parvrita Janu Shirsasana. And then coming up, inhale and exhale. Here we go, wafting 3 times, holding on the 3rd time. And twist, right hand, right leg up and over. Hold a breath. And coming up. And twist. And over. Coming up once more. And then staying here in the side bend. Couple more breaths. And reaching with that left arm, turning to face your right leg. Twisting to untwist, as it were. A little pulling up, twisting to the rightness, pulling the right side of the belly and the ribs up. Coming forward over the right leg, Janu Shirsasana. And then up. And extending that left leg out again, back to Konasana. And let's come forward between both legs. And 3, 2, 1. Coming up. And bringing those legs into Baddha Konasana. Coming forward in Baddha Konasana. And breathing 3, 2, and 1. Coming up, sliding those legs back out to Dandasana. And being at the front of your mat with enough room to roll down on the mat as we come forward. And we'll rolling down to the floor. Oh, here we are, back down on the floor. Let's bend the knees and we'll get our block and put it between the knees and bridge posing again. So we have lots of opening out and we're going to draw into that center line. And if you can, feeling like that block is drawing up toward the pelvis as we lift up. So kind of the opposite of much of what we just did, where we went wide and out. And now we're going drawing to the center and 3 or 4 more breaths. And rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And we'll take the block out, slide the legs out, stretching the arms up overhead, maybe a little wrist and ankle circling, some squinging if you want. And making our way back up to sitting by whatever means, maybe rolling up a little abdominal thing. Let's just come up and downward facing dog. Adho Svanasana, at long last, getting that pelvis up off the floor. Well, I guess it went off the floor in the bridge pose. All right. Downward facing dog. And maybe a little dog walking. We've got our hamstrings pretty well extended. Maybe a little more is wanted in the ankles and calves. And then here we are in the best downward facing dog of this moment, nothing moving but the breath. And let's lengthen forward to the plank, stretching long and flat against the ceiling. Remember, you can use all fours here or kneeling plank, or plank on with the knees down. I guess all fours is kneeling plank. Anyway, here we are somewhere. Long line from the tailbone to the top of the head, belly, and ribs drawing up against the spine. And then we'll all set those knees down on all fours. And Asta Namaskar, knees, chest, chin to the floor, into the small cobra. We're getting there by any means. We squeeze the elbows in, don't go for height. Go for the elbows drawn in, shoulders pulling down away from the ears. Lots of engagement with the upper back. And lengthening down, toes reach a little further away, top of the head reaches a little further away. 3 more small cobras. Inhale and exhale, lengthen up. Inhale and exhale, lengthen down. Twice more. And let's peel ourselves back up to downward facing dog, maybe through an indulgent cobra for a moment, into a few cats and cows, and then downward facing dog. And if you want to go through another vinyasa smoothly here, go ahead, or just breathing here in downward facing dog with me. Let's lift our right leg up. Bending the knee dog at the higher fire hydrant, opening the hip. And through to the lunge. And bringing that left knee down, coming up in the Vinyasa. Big circle of breath. Let's breathe those arms around with that circle of breath and all the way back up overhead. And taking the cactus pull, pulling those elbows wide. And then we'll eagle pose the arms. Right arm under, left arm over. Or holding the shoulders. And disentangling the arms, bringing the hands down to step forward. Into the concave back, halfway up. Holding over, taking a few breaths here at Uttanasana. Maybe bending the knees or using the block if needed. And then if you can, if it's not too much of a strain, so if you can pull down to the back of the ankles or shins and do a pull, like you're trying to pull the heels off the floor. This works fine with the bent knees too. Ooh, it's almost better with the bent knees. Like you're trying to pull the feet off the floor, and that will make a pull down to the top of the head. Just make sure you're not overdoing that. And letting those ankles or calves go. And we will make our way up to standing, carrying yourself up, pulling the sitting bones into the back of the back of the thighs up to the sitting bones. And pressing the arms down long through the top of the head. Inhale and exhale. Let's take a big circle with the shoulders and interlock the fingers. Squeezing those upper arms together, pouring down through the backs of the hands. Lengthen the chest to lift the chin. Coming forward, pressing away through the hands. And release the hands. Let's step back with our left leg and coming up in the warrior one, though you could use the high lunge if you would rather. We're going to do the same thing with the arms we did in Vinyasa. But first we're breathing, arriving here with our body, with our mind, with our breath. And then a big circle all the way around and back up overhead. And eagle pose, not eagle pose, cactus with the arms nice and wide and open, pressing back. And then eagle pose, right arm under. Checking in with what's going on with your warrior one legs. And disentangling those arms, coming down, stepping back to the plank through the vinyasa, any version, or holding the plank. That's a good version of the vinyasa as well. And as is child's pose. And then we'll all meet up, downward facing dog. And we'll go around with the other leg, lifting the left leg up. Bending the knee dog at the high fire hydrants. And through to the lunge. And we'll bring the right knee down, coming up in Vinyasa. Breathing the arms all the way around and back up overhead. Cactus pull wide. And then eagle pose, left arm under. And disentangle the arms to step forward. Into the concave, back halfway up, holding over. And then maybe doing that, grabbing hold of the ankles or somewhere along the calves and pulling down. Or you can think of pulling the feet up. It's more or less the same action, but it might feel a little differently in your body, whether you think about it as the pulling down at the top of the head, or you think about it as the pulling up of the heels. Letting that go, and we will come up to standing. We're going the opposite way. We're squeezing that back crease of the hip joint closed as we come up. And pressing the arms down, long through the top of the head. Inhale and exhale. Let's circle the shoulders to interlock the fingers behind. Lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. Coming forward and over. And release the hands. And let's step back with the right leg. So we're in the left lunge, coming up in the warrior one, or maybe the high lunge if you would rather do that. Breathing yourself into the pose. Not that we're not doing anything at the moment. It's we're constantly doing the pose. Every breath, every moment. And breathing the arms around and back up overhead. Cactus pull wide. And eagle pose, left arm. And then send your line down to the legs, to your lunge. What's going on there? Is that still nice and strong and steady? And disentangling the arms, come down. Stepping back to the plank. Any version of the vinyasa, or maybe holding the plank. And then we'll all be in downward facing dog, taking 3 deep breaths there. Coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And let's slide forward onto our stomach into the Sphinx. Pulling back with the elbows. Pulling back with the lower arm. With the wrists, with the hands. All the way from the elbows to the fingertips participating. And coming down. And then really squeezing the legs right together so we have a completely flat block between our inner thighs there. Giving that a squeeze. And then just take a moment of thinking of pulling that block up toward you. Reaching that block out the toes, but keep squeezing into the center. And we'll take the arms out wide to the side. If you don't have room in your space for straight out from the shoulders, you can always do the bend in the elbows and make them like the cactus arms with the forearms forward. All right, wherever we are here, we're lifting up, flying, gliding actually. Squeeze that imaginary flat block. Pull it up towards your head. Press it back out the toes. Coming down. And then making our way back up to downward facing dog, maybe the wiggly way that I like to do, or whatever way you want. We're in an indulgent cobra. It's the wiggly way. And a couple cat and cow ripples. Ah, I could write a book, The Way of the Wiggle. All right, back up and downward facing dog. And let's lift our right leg up. Bending the knee dog at the high fire hydrants. And through to the lunge, turning to the elephant riser. Pressing those knees out, feet on the diagonal. And coming up, 3-pointed star, rotating those thigh bones into the hip joints.
Up and out through the fingertips. And then pressing the arms to parallel, turning the feet to parallel. Deep breath. Let's rotate our right leg out now 8 degrees. Then straighten up that right leg, pulling up through the top of the head. And we'll bring the right arm up to the ceiling and then away to the left. And tilting out into the triangle Trikonasana. Wherever your triangle is today, my triangle is getting smaller every week, it seems like. Oh well, it's still here though, that's what counts. And then reaching back with the left arm, coming up. Keep feeling a reach back with the left arm as we bend the right knee into warrior two. Inner thigh to inner knee to center of the foot. So sometimes something happens and we think, oh, I can't do this pose. The reality is, yes, we can. We just can't do it the way we want to or think we ought to be able to. Maybe there's another version or a backing off or a variation. And then let's do that again. So we straighten up our right leg into the side bend. Reaching out into the triangle, Trikonasana. And reaching back with the left arm, we come up, the left arm keeps reaching, right inner thigh to knee comes forward, warrior two. And then once more, pulling up through the right leg and right out the right fingertip, side bending away. Tilting out into the triangle, Trikonasana. And reaching back with the left arm coming up, lengthening up that right side and reaching through the right hand to the center of the foot. And here we are, warrior two, another couple of breaths. Straightening up that right leg, turning the feet to parallel. Big lift up. Coming forward and over. And let's turn to our right lunge, back to the front of the mat. Stepping back to the plank. Through a Vinyasa any version. Downward facing dog. Maybe a child's pose in here if you want. And then we'll do that around on the let's lift our left leg up. And bending the knee dog at the high flyer. Through to the lunge. And turning to elephant. And straightening up, three-pointed star. And pressing the arms to parallel, feet to parallel. And rotating that left leg out 90 degrees, drawing up through the leg, up through the top of the head, and then all the way up that left side. Left arm coming up and away. And tilting out into the triangle. So if you have one side of your body that's injured or otherwise incapacitated, when you do your two sides, you have choices there. You can, which is what I am doing. I am backing off on my left side so that I'm doing the left and right side symmetrically, but maybe on the side that has a bigger range of motion and more available, you want to do your more so that you can do that. That's another possibility. And then we'll come up reaching back with the right arm, and then inner thigh to inner knee to center of the foot into the warrior two. And then we will be doing all of that back and forth. So we start side bending with our left arm and we straighten up that left leg. Tilting out into the triangle, Trikonasana. Reaching back with the right arm, coming up left side, lifts a little as we pull through the left inner thigh to inner knee. And then once more, drawing up that left leg, side bending away. Tilting out into the triangle, Trikonasana. Up and into the warrior two. And a few more breaths here in the warrior two. And then straightening that left leg up, turning the feet to parallel. Coming forward, big lift up. Diving over. And let's walk the hands over toward the right leg, toward the back of the mat. Maybe you can get hold of your right ankle with the right hand. Remember, I'm not the mirror here, so it's the same ankle, same hand. And do that pulling action there, almost like you're trying to pull the right heel up. Maybe more like you're pulling the head down and pulling yourself over to the right more. Letting that go, walking the hands over toward the left. Same idea, maybe the left hand can reach the ankle or calf. So don't force things if your body's just not going there. It's not important to get the details in here necessarily. And doing a pull and a pull. And back to the center. To the left lunge. Stepping back to the plank. And as you're going through the vinyasa, whatever the back bend component is, maybe lingering there a little longer. You just want to do what I'm doing. I'm doing upward facing dog on the knees. And back up to downward facing dog. And here we are in this downward facing dog, the best one of this one. Coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And calm up. And let's make our way down to the floor and into Shavasana. So as you come down, if there's something you feel you need or want to do, thinking about that, and then deciding whether you're going to do it or not. Maybe you can just do it in Shavasana with your breath. Assuming you are lying flat on the floor, letting the weight of your body melt into the earth. Letting your mind rest into the wave of breath. And with every exhale, we drift just a little deeper inside ourselves. Things get a little quieter, a little more easeful. Maybe noticing any resistance you have to that easefulness, to the letting go. Sometimes there is that. It can be a little alarming to let go of yourself, to let go of the world, to accept that peacefulness, to accept that moment of perfection.
And then breathing back into your body, into the room. Moving the fingers and toes, maybe circling the wrists and ankles. Stretching the arms up overhead. And your knees. And making your way up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with the long and spacious spine. Taking another moment, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.